Good morning, Honorable Adjudicator, worthy opposition, and my fellow teammates. I am Emily Smith from the Samarang Multinational School, here to represent the first speaker from the affirmative side, arguing for the motion, Couch Camp was a mistake. We, as the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true and therefore shall stand once and for all. Now to my team split. I, the first speaker from the affirmative side, will be talking about time differences and bedtime. The second speaker will be talking about time on computers or technology and how it damages the eyes and cheating. The third speaker will be talking about how not everyone is able to access it and problems with internet connections, technical difficulties, etc. And the last speaker will be backing up our team's points whilst also providing rebuttals to the negative team. As a definition to the topic, we define mistake as an unperceived outcome to an action. We can see this in all of the technical difficulties and the no-shows in this debate showcase. We define Couch Camp as an online competition run by teenagers trying to become a practice round for a professional competition called the World Scholars Cup. Now to my points. First and foremost, everyone lives in a different time zone. Even though the staff has tried to make time channels, it's hard for everyone to be online at the right time. Sometimes it is too early or too late for the scholars. Because of coronavirus, many scholars have fled back to their home countries, sometimes leaving their teams behind. Such as I have moved halfway across the world to my home country, leaving my team in a different continent. Which means with the time difference, it is hard for me to cooperate with the time channels given. Secondly, most scholars are juniors, and there are many Skittles too. We all have bedtimes and curfews which we can't go past. It is difficult for everyone to be online when it is 11 p.m. and they are supposed to go to bed. With online school also present, everyone needs to get their sleep. Scholars will be drowsy and not pay attention to what is most important in this stressful time: school. We are all trying to make the most of our limited education, and sleeping too late will lead to the scholars being too tired to pay attention, especially Skittles and juniors. The couch camp is hard to participate in because of these bedtimes. It is hard for us to wake up at the right time or sleep at the right time. Because with this horrible time and with the coronavirus all around our globe, we really need to make the best of our education. We really need to learn as much as we can, because it is a truth we need to not ignore, that we all are not able to get the best education possible when we are using online platforms, whether it be Zoom or Google Hangouts or FaceTime. It is harder to pay attention and harder to learn when it is online. So we need to make best of our current situation without wasting our time on couch camp and having a good sleep so that we can pay attention. In conclusion, Honorable Adjudicator, the worthy opposition, and my fellow teammates, I stand before you with a clear vision that the statement, couch camp was a mistake, is true and therefore shall stand once and for all. Thank you.
What happens when a giant, horrific global pandemic takes over the world and ceases all travel, all global competitions? What happens to other academic competitions that may be also global? Well, let's say maybe World Scholars Cup. What would happen in that case? Well, who would have thought that some of the most well-known members and scholars of that community would help bring together a huge community of 346 members in this Discord channel to a virtual online competition that is supposed to act like a practice round of that being couch camp. Now, how, if we get such good things like this, then how on earth can we, the negative team, ever agree to such a moot that couch camp was a mistake? Now, greetings, fellow audience, worthy opposition, fellow teammates, and lovely adjudicators. We on a negative team highly disagree with the motion that couch camp was a mistake. Now, before I would get into my signposting and say what me and my team's points are going to be, I have a rebuttal for the affirmative team. So the first speaker mentioned how um, how s- uh, how it may affect scholars' sleeping schedules and their time zones due to the fact that they are, some of them may be kids as well, and some of them may have curfew. Well, do you remember what day the Scholars Bowl was held? Do you remember what day the challenge was held? If I remember correctly, both both events were held on the weekend. Those being, I'm pretty sure if I can remember, the challenge was held on Saturday and this bowl was held on Sunday, which essentially makes their connection to school irrelevant. And also with writing essays as well, we had 48 hours for writing essays. So we had 2 days when we had plenty of time to work on our things on our own without having to cope with the other time schedules from other scholars' time zones. Now, to be more specific, and as well as that, our debates were held in different servers for different time zones, so it could be available for everyone. Now, to quickly go into what my team will be talking about, I will be talking about how this has strengthened us as a community and how not even a pandemic can stop us as a World Scholars Cup. The second speaker will be expanding on my point. The third speaker will be talking about the benefits and how there have been have been a lack of negative effects due to Couch Camp's existence. And the fourth speaker will be talking about will be essentially summarizing our points and pointing out why our points are more believable and more validated than the affirmative team. So on to my point about how pandemic can't stop us as a community. Like I previously mentioned in my intro, how often do you see a bunch of teenagers and socially awkward nerds all bound together to recreate one of the things that we love all together, that being World Scholars Cup? And if this really was a mistake, like the affirmative team have mentioned, also as well, we agree with the affirmative's definition of the moot. How can this be a mistake if a lot of us came out with several smiles, lots of joy, friendships were created? These are all very beneficial and great things for us scholars to experience. And even as well, like I previously mentioned, how there's currently a global pandemic of COVID-19 going around. What else would we been doing during the holidays? We can't really do World Scholars Cup because most of the rounds have been postponed due to this. So how else are we going to be able to connect with our fellow scholars? And this is why, and after the audience and the adjudicators have, I'm sure you can see why that couch camp was indeed not a mistake, and why we cherish it. We cherish its existence with all of our hearts. Us being the negative team. Thank you, and thank you for listening to my speech.
Hi, my name is Irene from Thailand. I am the second speaker of the affirmative team. First, let's head into the rebuttals. The first negative speaker said that the pandemic might be global, but it does not mean online debate cannot be a mistake. For example, like the first speaker said that having 48 hours to write an essay is far beyond the time given in real World Scholars Cup, making it too easy to cheat because you can research and create false expectations. Onto my point. Me and my team strongly agree that couch camp was a mistake. The couch camp was a mistake because it leads to many problems. For example, real debate versus online. If we compare it, real debate is way better. You know that people are not cheating by researching for points. It is very difficult to have good teamwork online because when you coordinate with your team members, it is not face-to-face, making it extra difficult. There are also many technical difficulties, such as speaker volume and microphone, also Wi-Fi. It is also hard to coordinate between team members because of constant disconnect from Wi-Fi and Discord application itself. Because of all of the said above, the time is not well spent on debate issues, but rather on technical issues and waiting for team member feedback. All of these lead to frustrating debate atmosphere and also health concerns for being on iPad for too many hours, such as 3-hour sessions during the Scholar Challenge. That was damage to your eyes and concern from Wi-Fi radiation. There is also no sensible way to manage and discourage cheating. In conclusion, to all my points, this creates a frustrating debate atmosphere, lacking teamwork, and does not represent the core value of World Scholar Challenge. So, me and my teammate strongly believe that the couch camp was a big mistake. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Priyanka and I am the second speaker of the negative side, strongly disagreeing that couch camp was a mistake. The first speaker of the affirmative team mentioned a few things which I disagree with. So the first speaker affirmative said that because of different time zones, people either have to wake up too early or go to sleep too late. However, education should be put first. Couch camp has helped students with their education, especially WSC. As our first speaker negative mentioned, the bowline challenge was held on a weekend, so couch camp wouldn't interfere with their school and other things. The first speaker negative also addressed the fact where the first speaker affirmative also addressed the fact where there are curfews and bedtimes, which are quite early for junior and Skittles. Well, because of the time zones, the staff took the time zones and planned all the debates and everything based on our time zone, so that shouldn't be a problem. Moving on to the second speaker affirmative point. My rebuttals are the following. The second speaker affirmative mentioned that it leads to problems such as participants can cheat because there aren't enough restrictions. Well, most of the websites for the answers, like for example the bowl, were blocked for the entire duration of the Scholars Bowl. The second speaker affirmative also mentioned that it is difficult to communicate with team members. Well, that is why the emails of team members were provided to all members so that good communication can happen. And if that a team does not have good communication, that is solely based on their fault and not couch camps. Moving on to my point. In addition to our first speaker's points, couch camp has helped all participants and staff, basically everyone, especially to the scholars who are doing WSC World Scholars Cup for the first time in their lives. They have been given this wonderful opportunity. So even though it might not be up to as the real standard of World Scholars Cup, it still helps improve their skills. Furthermore, there are so many advantages to couch camp, such as practice for first-year students, and they help the staff improve their organization skills, and it's a platform for communities all over the world to communicate, and people can make new friends just like in real life but online, so you're still safe in your homes. So, in conclusion, as a summary of my point, that couch camp was not a mistake, and therefore you should listen to the negative team side, which is that couch camp was not a mistake. Thank you.
My name is Anayat. I am from Center of Excellence High School in South Africa, and I will be the third speaker on the affirmative team, under the motion which has already been exhausted by the previous speakers. Now, before I would like to integrate my rebuttals into my main points because they were clashing with them. Now, the first speaker mentioned the fact that the first speaker mentioned that everyone is capable of joining these and that they have been structured according to time zones. But unfortunately, and that many debates and challenges were on weekends, which was accessible to many scholars. I note that according to my time zone, the challenge was 7 a.m. I don't wake up that early, especially when I'm not going to school. And that could mean that someone in an earlier time zone, because I'm GMT +2, might be having the challenge at around midnight. That is bad for them because it leads to the progression of sleep disorders, such as insomnia, because they want to participate so much that they are willing to sacrifice their sleep, which is disastrous, which is something that my first speaker already touched on. Something else that she mentioned is the fact, and the second speaker mentioned that basically everyone is capable of accessing the couch camp. Now, I'd like to prove that this is false. The people that are able to participate and benefit from the couch camp in the sense that it's like world scholars are not able to access the internet because not everyone has the capability of going to the internet. That is something that leads to a lot of exclusion among scholars and a bit of resentment, especially with first year scholars who are not able to be presented with the opportunity. Something else. My second speaker mentioned on the fact that it can be disastrous to a person's blurred vision because of the blue light that is radiated from these technology devices, such as laptops and phones, which are already being used to an excessive amount due to the fact that many of us are integrated into online schooling. This also clashes with the point that the first speaker mentioned, that without Discord, we have nothing else to do. This is false because many of us have been integrated into online schooling, which contributes to the blue light, as I previously mentioned. And some of us are also self-studying. My school has given us an immense amount of work that we've had to do, and it has been hard for me to juggle all of that as well as couch camp, because I know that I had to procrastinate submitting my essay because I had a lot of work to submit. So this proves that we don't just, during isolation, as much as it is somewhat of a relief, it isn't accessible to everyone, which means many people are excluded. Also, we have other responsibilities. I have a lot of chores to do at home, and my parents will not just be lenient enough to allow me to stay up late when they know I have schoolwork to do that has been assigned to me by my teachers, as well as the fact that it may be damaging to me because it might result in me having a sleep disorder, and I've also resulted in having blurred vision, and I already do need glasses, and the fact that I've been having a lot of neck and back pain because of my constant exposure to all these cell phones and radio frequency radiation that is coming from my devices. This proves that couch camp has contributed to the already disastrous consequences that we have been exposed to due to our technological adjustment in regards to online schooling. It is also disastrous towards our sleep disorders because of the different time zones. This proves that while a noble effect or attempt, it has not proved completely advantageous to all scholars around the world. Thank you.
Good day to everyone. I am the third speaker of Team Negative here, strongly opposing the motion that this House believes that couch camp was a mistake. I, as the third speaker, will be rebutting most of the points made by the affirmative team. Going on to my rebuttal. The second speaker talked about how the essays were for 48 hours and seriously allowed everyone to cheat on it. Well, what other variable did he even have? I mean, it was the only way possible where we could have written an essay and everyone could have also written the essay without, time lag nor not submitting it. The second speaker also talked about how online debates are worse, which I do not believe. Online debates may not be as good as original debates or debates where you see the other person, but they are pretty good in their own cases. For example, right now, all of you are sitting in your homes while there's a global pandemic outside, super bored, and you're having a debate, which is ultimately super beautiful when you think about it. Third, she also talked about how the second speaker also talked about technical issues, but I feel like the technical issues in the debate showcase and in the entirety of Couch Camp has been super low. Calling the couch camp a mistake is like calling something that someone put so much time and effort into that you have absolutely no idea how this was entirely possible, a mistake, which I believe, again, as I said, is not true. Third, she also talked about the damage given by devices and Wi-Fi radiation. Both have been debunked countless times and are myths as of now. Computers cannot damage your eyes permanently, and Wi-Fi radiation can't do anything severe at all. The second speaker also talked about the Scholars Challenge and BAL, which my team had already rebutted by saying it doesn't have any relevancy to school because, it happens on a weekend where online classes are usually not conducted. Also, the third speaker of the affirmative team also talked about this, but then the affirmative team forgot that the WSC, the actual competition, also usually happens around the same date and also usually takes up school sports, which basically says that the online couch camp and the WSC are basically similar in that perspective. The third speaker talked about how the challenge was at 7 a.m., which is not really that late or nor that early. I mean, it is the time you wake up for school and go to school, which is not something most people consider too early. And she also talked about how people at earlier GMTs may have had, the challenge at midnight, but this is not true because, well, the challenge lasts for 1 hour and midnight isn't really that long of a time. Also, the next day, the debates usually were later at the day so that people could have made up for the lost time sleep by sleeping somewhere around the day. Next, they also talked about how the internet affects revision again, which was disproven by multiple authorities that govern the internet. Also, she also repeated the point about how online schooling work also affected her methods of judging and debating, which I believe is not true. For example, let's look at the essay again. If you had online schoolwork and essay at the same time, then you could have easily finished your online schooling work and also done the essay because the essay had a super large time limit of 48 hours. The third speaker also talked about how the technologies we use and the time limits given allow us to cheat, which I believe is not true since you can use devices in debate, even in the original WSC. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chiki Iyer from this international school, and I'm the final speaker for the affirmative team. I will once and for all prove to you and leave you with no doubt that couch camp was indeed a mistake. But first, some rebuttals. In a global pandemic, is an academic competition really the priority, as implied by the first speaker? So many students, especially ones with a poor economic background, have literally zero access to even basic education currently. So, is an academic competition really the priority? As to what the first and second speakers both said about the Scholars Bowl and Challenge and how their timing did not impact school, and that the time zones were well planned, do the speakers not realize that it is simply unfair to make a certain group of people have to stay up until the late hours of the night, whereas others are well rested? This will be elaborated upon later. The second speaker talked about communication. Yes, emails were provided as a means of communication, but emails being sent did not always facilitate good communication. One of the juniors from my school participated as a solo scholar for Couch Camp, and one of her teammates never even showed up. The online medium led to her other teammate having audio difficulties, and basically, she had to do one of her debates pretty much on her own. This would not have happened if the online medium had not been used, which was a huge mistake. On to the point by the third speaker, just because someone puts time and effort into something, though it is appreciated, that does not mean that it cannot be a mistake, as stated by the third speaker. If the speaker has looked at our special area curriculum this year, they would see that mistakes such as New Coke, Napoleon's invasion of Russia, even the Great Emu War took a lot more effort than the couch camp, but were still considered mistakes, so that is an invalid point. The third speaker also talked about wireless routers. Wireless routers, as well as Bluetooth and similar wireless systems, give off electromagnetic radiation in the low gigahertz frequency. This level is considered potentially dangerous to people. Now on to my points. What is couch camp? It is an online academic competition. Our first speaker defined a mistake as an unperceived outcome to an action. Think about this. If in a machine, a small part malfunctions, the entire machine malfunctions. Think back to the couch camp all of us have just attended. Small mistakes such as Wi-Fi issues, speaker issues, cheating in the challenge and writing, and many more were very, very present throughout. Doesn't this mean that each small mistake turned the entirety of couch camp into one big mistake? Let me elaborate. First of all, couch camp was opened up to people all over the world. A mistake. People in Canada and people in the Americas, and people in Asia are obviously not in the same time zone. This led to the majority of couch camp being most suitable to scholars in the Asia and Australia regions, simply due to those areas having a higher number of participating scholars. What does this mean? It means that during events such as the Bowl and Challenge, we had quite a few sleepy scholars staying up past midnight trying to compete with well-rested scholars that were able to think more clearly. Researchers believe that sleep affects learning and memory in two ways. Lack of sleep impairs a person's ability to focus and learn efficiently. And sleep is necessary to consolidate a memory so that it can be recalled in the future, which is necessary for the challenge as well as the bowl. Is this not completely unfair to scholars in certain time zones? This issue with time zones means that some scholars were not able to perform to their highest potential like others, which means that there was a bias against them from the beginning. This issue with time zones creates an inherent flaw throughout the couch camp. In fact, the closing ceremony itself at one point had only 3 Couch Camp staff in there, as many had to go to sleep due to their time zones. On to my next point. Couch Camp is only for the rich. I think every student needs access to technology, and I think technology can be a hugely important vehicle to help level the playing field. Amy Duncan. Building distance learning systems is not for the faint of heart. In theory, they can help make learning more accessible for people, but not in an overnight crash situation like many of us are facing, for example, in Couch Camp. Unequal access to technology and internet create a huge set of limits. Schools, on one hand, are working laudably to pass out laptops and tablets to students who need them. And even then, learning is going to depend on a fragile chain of highly stressed parents and other caregivers and teachers, creating the conditions in which learning is possible. Couch Camp doesn't even have that possibility. Couch Camp does not have the ability to make WSC open to all kids, making a mistake. You may be saying that physical WSC rounds require entry fees and money too, but some of my fellow scholars.
A very good evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are, to the honorable adjudicators, fellow teammates, misguiding and highly deceitful opponents, and members of the floor. As the final speaker of the negative team and the last speaker of this debate, I am here to shed light and truth on the topic regarding that this couch camp was in fact nowhere even close to a mistake. First, I would like to begin with rebuttals. The first speaker claimed all about time zone issues and how there's a lot of problems with time and sleep. In this debate, we have been repeatedly trying to prove that 1, this couch camp was optional. Second, our debates were held in different time zones. Third, challenge and bowl were held on Saturday and Sunday, giving you time to properly rest well, probably take a nap, and be prepared to stay up later. If you are unwilling to make that sacrifice to stay up, what in the world are you even doing in this couch camp? As for the point on writing, they claim that writing, because we have 48 hours, it makes it not the same as the World Scholars Cup. That doesn't correlate to why this couch camp was a mistake. As long as all contestants have the same amount of time to complete their task, that is considered fair. For the second speaker, she made a very wild claim on Wi-Fi radiation, and for the third and fourth speaker, they also made a very wild claim on Bluetooth radiation. Well, here's a fact. Wi-Fi radiation is proven to do close to no damage at all. Bluetooth, 1,000 times less than that. That point is ridiculous and invalid and has no place in this debate. Also, on the point on screen time, you claim, and thank you for saying that 3 hours is the most time we ever spent in this couch camp, because the average time, scientifically proven, is actually 5 hours. So 3 hours is less than average. So we are not spending too much. For the third speaker, she claims that it's not fair to those people who do not have internet access, not fair to those who don't have devices. I would like to point out that the World Scholars Cup is not free and comes with a fee, which in my country is 400 ringgit or equivalent to $100. If you cannot afford basic internet access and you cannot afford basic devices, you should not even be in the World Scholars Cup, much less this couch camp to begin with. Let's add that this couch camp is free. For the fourth speaker, he claimed that whether academic competition is a priority. No, academic competition is not a priority because this was optional. That is what the affirmative team has been trying to deceive you, the adjudicators, for this entire debate. That this couch camp has brought many disturbances and many grave health violations, as they so claim, even to the point that they're claiming that's unfair. Let that add that when they tried to repeatedly blame that technical issues are the mistake of the couch camp, wrong. Technical issues are the mistake of the online medium, which is irrelevant to the couch camp itself. Our couch camp could have been held on any other different medium, and it so happens that our medium is not in fact the best. That is not to the couch camp fault, and that is not the host's fault either. I would like to convince you all, and to support my points, that as a community, this couch camp has proven us, dear adjudicators, on how strong and how far we have gone as not just a mere competition, but as a community. Our debate practices, which is our second point, placing our time not to waste. Instead, we expand our minds over the curriculum, strengthening our grip on debates. That is how powerful this couch camp has been. And this is what I am here to convince you, adjudicators, who would like to say that this is a mistake, that you are in fact doing something great, something remarkable for our community. With that, I rest our debate.